Wisdom seeker, what if the dead never meant to stay silent? Beneath Egypt's golden sands lie doors that were never meant to open. Yet we did. And something came with us. In 1922, a tomb was opened, and the world changed forever. Lord Carnarvon died days later. 11 more followed. Coincidence? Or the fulfillment of an ancient warning etched in stone? But this was only the beginning. Because Tutankhamun wasn't the only one cursed. Some tombs are still sealed. Others were opened, and then buried again. Why? Let's step through the veil of time, into the heart of Egypt's most haunted burial sites, where death wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something else. When Howard Carter broke through the sealed doorway of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, the world held its breath. Inside, untouched splendor. Gold coffins, ivory chariots, daggered statues with inlaid obsidian eyes. A boy pharaoh sleeping in silence for over 3,000 years. But that silence would not last. Lord Carnarvon, the expedition's patron, died suddenly, just weeks after entering the tomb. A mosquito bite turned septic. He called out his wife's name, and the lights in Cairo reportedly blinked out at that very moment. Back in London, his dog howled and dropped dead. Then, others followed. A radiologist who x-rayed the mummy, dead. A visitor to the tomb, slipped into a coma. An archaeologist, struck by sudden illness. A financial backer, shot himself in a London club. Even Carter's own pet canary, eaten by a cobra the morning the tomb was opened. A cobra, the symbol of Egypt's divine royalty. Some called it a sign, others, a message. By 1935, more than a dozen associated with the dig had died under strange circumstances. Coincidence? Or a pattern far older than science? Doctors spoke of infection. Newspapers screamed of a pharaoh's revenge. And Carter? He never admitted fear. But letters reveal something deeper. A man who slept with a pistol. A man who, years later, refused to enter certain chambers again. Etched above the chamber door were these words: "Death shall come on swift wings to him who disturbs the king." Some say it was just a poetic flourish. But what if it was a warning? Because curses aren't always loud. Sometimes they whisper, in the dark, from just behind you. Far from the splendor of the Valley of Kings lies a place even the ancients approached with caution. Saqqara, a necropolis older than memory, where the air is thick and silence feels watched. It was here that archaeologists uncovered a chamber so strange, even seasoned Egyptologists hesitated. Massive black sarcophagi, each weighing over 60 tons. Smooth, obsidian-like surfaces. No inscriptions, no prayers, only stone lids, sealed tight since the time of Ramses. They were meant to contain the sacred Apis bulls, or so the records claimed. But what the team found was nothing. No bulls, no remains. Just air, still, stale, and somehow humming. Then the anomalies began. Lights flickered, camera footage corrupted. One technician collapsed to the floor, eyes wide, whispering in a language no one recognized. Another fled the site entirely and refused to speak of what he saw. Radiation sensors spiked, then went dead. Electromagnetic waves surged, scrambling not just machines, but minds. One researcher later reported seeing a shadow move against the flashlight beam. Another swore they heard a deep groaning beneath the sarcophagus, like stone, straining to breathe. Officials dismissed the claims, called it heat stroke, stress, media nonsense. But the workers refused to return. They left tools behind, left the tomb open, and whispered in secret. These were not coffins. They were cages. Luxor, a city of temples, triumphs, and eternal stone. But buried deep beneath the grandeur of its sacred halls lies something quieter and far more disturbing. Not a tomb for kings, not marked by gold, but one carved for the dead who spoke to gods, the priests. It was a routine dig. An exploratory team followed cracked limestone down into a narrow shaft beneath a collapsed chamber of the Temple of Amun. There they found a hidden doorway, sealed not with stone, but with a strange compound, as if melted, not built. On the inner wall, barely legible, "He who enters leaves broken." At first they thought it metaphor, a poetic warning, symbolic. Then, the descent began. The first camera, dead. Replaced, dead again. The team's mapping software began to glitch. Walls that didn't exist, corridors folding back on themselves. One archaeologist laughed nervously. Another grew quiet, refusing to speak at all by the third day. And then, someone vanished. Not lost. Erased. Their name no longer listed on the manifest, their tent untouched, their belongings still zipped and folded. When questioned, the others hesitated. One said, "He left." Another said, "He never came." But one man refused to answer at all. He just stared. The tomb was quietly sealed, no photos released, no papers published. And still today, the villagers who live near that temple will not walk its grounds after dark. They say the tomb breathes, just once, on certain moonless nights. They say it remembers those who entered, and they say the voice that echoes from below no longer sounds human. And then, wisdom seeker, there is the tomb no one speaks of. No legends, no records, no name. Unearthed in 2023. Accidentally. A construction team digging a utility trench just outside Dashur struck something hollow. Stone. Not natural, not mapped. When authorities arrived, they found a shaft descending into the earth, slick with condensation, and older than the pyramids above it. There were no hieroglyphs, no cartouche, no images of Osiris, Ra, or Anubis. Only a single object blocking the inner chamber, sealed obsidian tablet. So smooth and so dark it reflected nothing. Beyond it, 13 scarabs, each perfectly preserved, arranged in a tight circle around a depression in the floor, as if something had once rested there, or waited. The temperature inside dropped sharply. Batteries died, lenses fogged, footage lost, hard drives fried. One team member reported feeling watched from beneath. Another was found standing motionless for hours, whispering to the scarabs. And one man, an intern from Spain, walked out alone and was never seen again. His passport, phone, and bag were still in the tent, his name removed from the site ledger, like he had evaporated. When the team returned days later, the tomb was sealed, not collapsed. The shaft was filled with fine white dust, too uniform to be natural, too deliberate to be coincidence. The officials closed the site. No statements were released. The dig was marked abandoned due to instability. But the locals, they whisper it wasn't a tomb at all. They say it was a vault, a prison, built not to house the dead, but to hold something alive. Something Egypt had hidden not just from history, but from itself. And they do not speak its name, because they say it never had one. Because something that old was never meant to be remembered. Not all curses come with thunder. Some come as silence, a stillness too perfect, too knowing. We thought the ancients built tombs to honor the dead. But what if they were built to protect the living? Warnings etched in stone. Gates locked not with keys, but with time itself. And every time we dig, every time we open what was meant to stay shut, something ancient looks back. Some tombs aren't haunted by spirits, but by secrets that should never have survived. So tell me, wisdom seeker, if you stood before that door, dust swirling, the seal cracking, would you step inside? Or would you run? If these chambers still whisper through time, what else lies buried beneath the sand? There are tombs we've opened, tombs we've sealed again, and tombs we've only just begun to find. If you hunger for more riddles carved in dust, more forbidden echoes from ancient stone, then walk the next trail with me. But first, tell me in the comments, which curse would you dare to face? Which door would you leave closed?